Well, here we are. This is a 1955 Plymouth Belvedere, and I think if you don't think it's a beautiful looking car, I don't know. Well, I certainly think it's beautiful. This is a let's have a look, see what the buttons do and everything inside. Right, as I say, this is the Belvedere model, which was the top of the range, though. This one, it hasn't got electric windows, which in a lot of cases on my cars, when they don't, I'm very pleased, because there's less to go wrong. Now, let's say we've got a nice dash. Now, the dash itself is interesting to start off with, because it looks like a padded dash, and this is all original, but actually it's painted, and it's hard, but it hasn't deteriorated with time as a lot of the actual padded dashes have. This is a really, really nice looking dash. Starting over in this corner here, we've got the controls for the heater blowers, which is very interesting for a car that's 60 years old, nearly. We've got a 2-speed blower in the middle here, which works the heater blower that blows hot air into the footwell. And then on the outside ring, there's another 2-speed control that works at the blower, a separate blower for the demisting, it goes on the window. So you've got two blowers, one that serves the window, the windscreen, and the other is inside. That control is controls the valve for the water to the heater, so it turns the hot water or the heater on or off, basically. This is the lights, two positions, dipped, sorry, side lights, and then main, which is dipped by, and main by the button on the floor. Get it right in a minute. The ring on the outside turns off the lights in the dash, or turns them on and then makes them brighter or dimmer. Then you've got the wipers, 2-speed electric wipers, and then you've got the infamous control for the transmission. Right, it's an automatic box, but it in this day, on this car, and as it was in most of the boxes in these days, they didn't have a park position. So you're in neutral there. Then you go up to reverse, come back to neutral, down to drive, and then down to the low gear. Now there is only 2 speeds in this box. To drive it, you just wouldn't know it, because it drives more or less in one speed, the top speed. The low speed engages when you you start, so obviously it gives you a quicker getaway, but most of the time you're driving in one gear. You wouldn't know that. It drives brilliantly. And of course you can just switch between neutral and drive. You've got a valve radio built in, and over here you've got a cigarette lighter. Now, they made this car, or they advertised it a lot as being a symmetrical dash. I think a lot of the reason for that was because it was easy to convert to right-hand drive, and a lot of these cars were sold at the time in Hong Kong and South Africa and various countries around the world where they actually drove on the left-hand side, so they had a right-hand drive car. But they did sell it as symmetrical, and I'm not sure whether it was a good thing, because the 2 dials on the other side, difficult to see them really from the driving position. But here we've got the amps, so that's the charging, tells you what the battery's, how the battery's charging. Here we've got the fuel gauge. Here we've got the oil pressure gauge and a water temperature gauge. This is the speaker for the radio. We've got a glove compartment here, which is lockable. And here we've got the ash receiver or ashtray, whichever you want to call it. Incidentally and interestingly, I understand that when they first made this car, the first ones, this ashtray here, didn't have this indentation in, and a lot of people complained because they couldn't find where the ashtray was. So they then modified it halfway through the year and put this in. So obviously this car presumably was made in the latter part of '55. Another improvement on this car, where the very important vent on the top of the bonnet or the hood used to be the lever pulled in and out, which is more difficult. This one is side to side, making it much easier to operate. You've got two kind of positions. You can push it halfway and then shut it. It goes up and down. Very important that actually a lot of people who don't seem to realize that a lot of these cars, including this one, had a recirculating air heating system. So the air was sucked in to the heater from the cabin, heated and put back into the cabin. And unless you had fresh air coming in, very soon you got drowsy. So you could bring air into the cabin by the vent on the hood or by these amazingly useful little vents at the side. The horn ring, as all these cars had at that time, got a nice horn. And we've got indicator, which came as standard then, unlike some of the older cars I have where they were optional. That's probably all there is on the controls. The dipping of the lights, of course, is done by the button on the floor, and the handbrake is the umbrella type, which was common to all the cars of this period. There is another feature, though, actually on this car, which there's a big button under the floor here, top of my foot, and that works. When you push it, it works a vacuum pump that pumps water onto the windscreen, and at the same time activates the wipers. So it is effectively a wash-wipe system, should I say. In the back, not a lot. Some of these things were really good sale items. Of course, they had the coat hooks, which all cars had at that period. People wore. Men wore coats and jackets, so they used to hang their jackets on these hooks. And it's got a central light, and that's really about it. Let's have a look at the outside. This is a V8, by the way. Right, we'll look in the boot or the trunk. Push button. This one, I've had this one carpeted out, so it's quite nice and tidy, though there is no rust at all under it. Spare wheel is in a nice cover, and the jack has got its own cover. I've got a spare car in the back as well, just in case, and I've got the manual and a bit of oil and something to clean it with. I've got power flight. That panting actually is my dog. Fuel cap. Little optional extra period at the time were these little flaps at the side, which when you had the window open stopped air coming into the car. They work quite well. Now just have a quick look at the engine. As I say, it's a V8. First V8 that Plymouth made. They call it a semi-Hemi. It's a slightly hemispheric car, a sort of cheap Hemi, really. We've had, on this car, I've had disc brakes fitted to the front and changed the brakes lines altogether and put in a dual circuit system, which makes it much safer. So we've got discs in the front and the original drums in the back. This water supply here is for the pump, that push pump, that is a little push vacuum pump that works water for the windscreen. I'm actually going to fit. I managed to source a 6-volt, because this is a 6-volt car. I've managed to source a 6-volt washer system, which I'm having fitted. So I have an electric washer system to the car. You can see over here that the air is actually not coming from the outside. That's the blower, and you can just see that air comes from the outside, from the inside of the cabin back into the cabin. Little generator, Straightforward little engine, but very smooth. So we'll just start it up. Oil bath, air filter of course. Nice V8 sound. Well, there we go. 1955 Plymouth. And German Shepherd.